You're good to go whenever you're ready.
All right. Are we all set?
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to call this February 20th, 2024 Recreation Committee meeting to order. If we can just have a few moments of silence. All right. Amen. Do I have a motion to approve the November 20th, 2023 minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes. All right, minutes are approved. All right, now moving on to item number 3. Jason Kronsberg, he is going to give us a parks and capital projects update. I did request this item to be placed on here. I thought it would be a really great time. I know there's a lot going on all over the city as far as big capital projects, Brittle Bank, WPAL, all of those parks. So I think it would be a great time to just sort of update us on all of those projects.
Excellent. So good afternoon, everybody. So you had asked me to give you an updates on 3 projects, Brittle Bank, WPAL, and Fort Pemberton. I'll keep these kind of brief and open the floor for any questions that you may have. So Fort Pemberton and Riverland Terrace on James Island is in its 3rd TRC review. That was January 18th. So hopefully we'll be wrapping up the TRC comments soon, and pending permit approvals, we anticipate putting that project out to bid late 2nd quarter. The scope of work is passive park in nature, walking trails, small parking areas, and waterfront access. So if you are familiar with Fort Pemberton, it was an old Civil War fort. It had been used as a residence for a number of years. That home is in pretty bad shape, and it is will be demolished and went through a BAR approval. It got vandalized. It was caught on fire a couple times, so the fire department went out there and put the fires out. So there will be a new picnic shelter at that location. We'll reutilize some of the slate roof tiles. That was a BAR requirement, and try to get that project opened up for public access this year. It's going to be something pretty cool for the general public. Any questions on that one?
Jason, so will people be able to come to that park by boat? Is that the idea too, as well?
Yes, there's 2 existing residential dock structures that we'll be upgrading. One of them's in a little bit better shape than the other one, but yes, they'll both have floating docks.
Great, thank you.
Blue water trail connections less than a mile away from the future WPAL park, which is next on the agenda.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I'm late, folks. Council member Caroline Park is going to be a little late, so she wants me to just get things started.
No,
We're started.
I'm
Oh,
here.
great. Okay, good. Sorry, I'll tell you later what happened. Okay, I'm here.
All right. So then the WPAL park on Wapu Road, first round of TRC and permitting November 2nd. Second round TRC was middle of January. So finalizing boardwalk and pierhead structural design, and then some of the restroom finishes and pavilion design for that project. It's a small, less than 2 acre park space on Wapu Road with a 1,000-foot dock. So it's not a huge park, but it's got a footprint. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, I do.
Councilmember Waring.
Well, thank you. Will there be places for people to sit as opposed to walking, if they don't want to walk the whole 1,000 feet out to the bulkhead?
Yeah, there's a plan. There's plans for a couple little waysides, if you will, where you could pull off and take a rest.
Right. Kind of like over there at Shem Creek.
That's the concept, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I apologize, y'all. I can't see all of y'all. So if you raise your hand, please just shout out. I apologize for my mobile chairwomanship today.
I thought I had your back.
Okay, that's right. Councilmember Gregory's there. Councilmember Gregory, you got it, right?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Then the third project you asked for an update on was the Brittle Bank Park playground replacement. Brittle Bank's been around quite a while, and it's top of our list for replacements for a while now. So we have a proposal from Carolina Play Systems, the same vendor that did the inclusive and accessible playground in North Charleston just recently. We are taking cues from that playground, as Brittle Bank was our destination inclusive playground structure, and it will be replaced with again, all inclusive and brand new playground equipment. So this one's got a little bit of a strange wrinkle in it, in that Brittle Bank Park and the entire area that was a former landfill is under a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers for the landfill cap. So we have lots of design and permitting that we have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers for. So all of that is getting ready to get underway. We've got the playground systems designed, and hopefully we'll get into that permitting process in the next couple months with the Army Corps of Engineers. That landfill permit goes back to 1971, and nobody really knew about it, and we found out the hard way, but we know what to do now. So that's the three capital projects that are park related that you had requested an update on.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Kronsberg. So, and that may be a miscommunication on my part. I mean, I used those three as examples, but are those all of the capital projects that we have in the queue right now?
No, there's a large list of projects. I could kind of go through them all if you want me to.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can just touch briefly on the ones we have highlighted.
I think it would be beneficial to the group. I mean, that was, that was the hope. I mean,
okay, I can do that. So I'm just going to keep going then. So we have some work that we're planning on doing at the Shaw Center downtown. There's been a request over the years to have the interior upfitted. Well, we have some drainage or some water intrusion issues at that building. So that work for the water intrusion has to be done before we can either repaint or redo some of the interior stuff. So the scope of that work is that the interior upfit, colors, paint, fixtures, gym flooring, and so we're continue to work with the civil engineers on the design for the water intrusion, which the building goes property line to property line. So we have a very tight area to get in and solve the water intrusion issues. But that's underway. Governor's Park drainage improvements. The consultants are working on design documents. We're going to work with Recreation on scheduling that work. So basically, Governor's Park doesn't drain as well as it should due to the poor soil conditions on Daniel Island. So those design drawings are readying for bid, and hopefully we'll go out to bid this quarter. Next on the list, we have the Muni Golf Course restrooms. So when we started this project, when we went through to start with the stormwater permitting, we had to get the original permit closed out. So from the golf course renovation before we could go for a new permit. So what that means is We had to survey the entire golf course and verify all of the as-built pond data was performed per the drawings. The engineer has submitted those to stormwater for review. So we're hopefully get that original permit closed out, and then we can go to bid for the restroom structures in second quarter. Just so you know, you all have already approved the purchase of the prefab boxes. So there was a considerable amount of lead time on those. So those will be ready, and then we will bid out the site work so that they can deliver the boxes, and the site work contractor will be able to place those on the utility stub outs. Let's see here. We got some Longborough dock, still working with the neighborhood association on that one. We've presented to them our final plans based on coordinating with the permit agencies. So they were going to meet at their next neighborhood meeting and take a vote on the plans. Stony Field is all, hopefully you've all seen the brick columns and gates have been completed. That was one where we learned about the 1971 landfill permit. So we couldn't touch the cat unless we had permission from the Army Corps of Engineers. So that should be wrapping up soon. So we have tennis and basketball court maintenance upcoming as well. What we just completed was Forest Park basketball courts, Freedom Park basketball courts, Mall playground, and then up and coming, we Harborview, Fort Johnson tennis courts, Jack Adams tennis courts, and Moultrie tennis courts 3 and 4. So this is just our annual court resurfacing work that we do every year. We're also working on the West Asher Greenway wayfinding signage project. That work is underway. The signs are being installed. We have the bikeway resurfacing project. So that project is still in design and permitting, and we hope to have it ready for bid in the next 6 months or so. So that's basically from Wantut all the way to Wapu Road, the bikeway resurfacing, and this is a phase 2. The original phase went a shorter distance, and hopefully we'll get that work done this year.
Jason,
Yes, sir.
if back to the tennis courts, in Wagner Terrace, what's that, Corey? The area where the tennis courts are, is Peachtree and
Jones.
Yes. We're just going to resurface. We're not going to replace.
Lori, do you know if we have those on the list for this year? I don't have them on my list.
Because it's traditionally been in terrible shape.
Yeah, Councilmember Gregory, you're correct that those courts will need to be rebuilt to make real improvements on them. We've got a couple of courts across the city that are like that. This is that small pot of money that we have to resurface probably 8 to 10 basketball and tennis courts every year. But that project would be much bigger in terms of funds.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure I was on the same page. Thank you.
So those were primarily recreation or multi-use pathway projects. All of them are underway in a certain level of completion. So do you have any other specific questions?
Okay, anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Councilman Parker.
Sure, Councilmember Shealy.
Wanted to ask Jason, I know last year, toward the end of the year, we were looking at the potential of lights at West Ashley Park to add some lights there. And my understanding is there may be a budget issue now. Do you know any update on that as far as lights?
So we have the design from Dominion. It comes with a significant cost. So it'll have to be a budget request for 2025. It's over $100,000.
Wow. Okay.
That requires putting in sleeving from light to light, transformer pads, and it's a pretty significant project.
Okay. So we didn't get it in the budget for 2024 then, I guess, at all.
That's correct. We pretty much just got the numbers back in the past couple of weeks.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Also just wanted to ask, as far as the Muni golf course bathrooms, my understanding is those bathrooms are ready right now. We're just waiting on stormwater, I believe. And once we get that, they're already waiting for us and ready to go. Is that correct?
That's correct. So as soon as we can get the original permit closed out, we can put that project out to bid. But yes, I'm not sure if they're ready and waiting, but the purchase has been made from the manufacturer.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And are those the same type that we put over there in
Ferguson?
Yes, Ferguson.
These are a little different. They're modular, but it's a concrete box, pretty much with a shingle looking roof and board and batten siding. It's a prefab unit. It was a little bit more efficient and cost effective to get those done versus the Portland Lou.
Okay, and one more, did we ever decide what we're going to do with the land that Bishop Gatson has provided for us for Passive Park?
No, I do reach out to them from time to time, and it kind of gone a little quiet on their side as far as what that license agreement would look like.
Okay, I'll have to fill Councilmember Parker in on that, because I think she sent them now.
Yeah, I think we can definitely, let's talk about that, Councilmember Gregory.
Okay, we will.
Just one last question, Mr. Kronsberg. So thank you for giving us that long list, whatever, all that's in the queue for capital projects. What about other items are there any items that are budgeted this year that weren't listed in that list?
Yeah, yes, yes, the answer is yes. I don't have that list handy to kind of review right now, but there's a lot of projects that aren't capital in nature that we requested through the budget process. And those typically are managed either through our facilities project managers or through our grounds staff. But yes, there are a number of other smaller projects throughout the city.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Back to the golf course, Mr. Kronsberg. You said that we're waiting to close out the original permit, stormwater, so we can get a permit to put in the.
That's correct.
How long that's been going on?
Well, it's been since last year when the restroom structures were funded. And then we had our sketch plan review meeting with the TRC folks. Then we were told that before we could get a new permit, we had to close the old one out for the golf course renovation. And so,
I mean, why? I'm just curious. Why we couldn't chew bubblegum and walk at the same time? Not you, but I mean, our stormwater department. Why couldn't we get a second permit issued just for that?
I'm not sure the exact details on it, but I know that it's a permitting requirement. They needed to verify that everything was built per the original plans before they would issue a new permit.
I mean, truthfully, this was left off the original plan, the bathrooms. Anyway.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
This is an example. One reason I bring this up, Mayor Cogswell, is when it comes to city projects, a lot of times we delay our own projects. And when we delay our own projects, it increases the cost for everybody, every taxpayer in the city. I mean, it just doesn't seem like you had a closeout. We had a golf course renovation, 18 holes. We got to close out all of that to be able to get a permit to install. How many bathrooms? 2?
Yes, sir.
We actually talked about that this morning in a staff meeting about that very thing between city sponsored projects and affordable housing projects, how to expedite that. So working on it for sure.
That'd be great. One of the things that we suggested, just in a sidebar conversation, Mr. Kronsberg, you might remember this. If the city had a code, basically 1670, that's when the city was founded. When a project is coded 1670, hopefully it could be expedited. But anyway, just an idea.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Waring. Yes, I know we've talked about this many times, so hopefully we're going to work on that process internally, right? All right. Well, thank you again, Mr. Kronsberg. And now moving on to item 4A, spring sports update. Miss Yarborough.
Thank you, Councilmember Parker. I'm also in the car. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. So I sent a something over to the clerk's office that if they could put up, it would you could share the screen on that. It would show all the numbers. I'm happy to run through those as well. We're actually just finishing up our basketball program. We're going to be playing all-star basketball all weekend in Charleston, North Charleston, Bluffton, and Orangeburg. So our spring program, we've gotten through registration. Now you see this on your screen, I hope, but it shows you the number of children we've got in each of the boroughs: James Island, West Ashley, Daniel Island, and Peninsula. And it shows the number of children by sport plus the number of teams. As of right now, that equals about 4,172 children playing traditional sports with us this spring. We've got over 1,000 adults registered in our adult sports program right now and still taking registration there as well. This does not.
Sorry to interrupt. Can someone scroll up? I think the headings on the spreadsheet are not showing.
Sorry. Wanda, can you help with that?
Go to the top of the spreadsheet.
We just can't see the location, like
Yes.
James
Right,
Island, West
right.
Ashley.
Yes, I'm sorry. Just a minute. I'm trying to fix it.
That's okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of technology going on in this meeting right now. I'll keep talking though as she's trying to pull that up, because you'll be able to see the numbers by your area. And it's interesting. Daniel Island's kind of split evenly between soccer and baseball, softball, whereas James Island's very heavy in soccer, and so is West Ashley. So just kind of spread out around what our families have interest in. We'll be starting our elementary middle school tennis program on public courts. That the schedule's being worked on right now. That'll encompass another 1,500 children taking part through their schools, as well as our swim team and gymnastic teams. And then our adult tennis teams are in their spring season at our 2 tennis centers. So lots of sports going on right now across the way. The younger children, the 5 to 8-year-olds, they'll start their practices next week, with their games starting at the end of March and finishing in May. The older kids, 9 and up, will actually start their practices this week. Their games will start the 25th. We work with the schools, spring break, Easter break, trying to make sure we get everybody in, since the school districts were in 2 different counties and we have some public and private schools. So we'll be using all of our what I call a competitive field, or places where we have multiple fields and lights. So that would be James Island Rec Center and Bayview for games, in particular on James Island. And West Ashley will be at West Ashley Park and Bees Landing Rec Center. On Daniel Island, the Governor's Park facility will take in a lot of things, but we'll also use Freedom and Etowah. We just don't have lights there. So, and then once the games begin, there's no practices on any of our game fields. So those teams will start pushing out to some of the neighborhood parks, like a Thomas Johnson or a Deming Park or a Forest Park or one of those kind of places, to make sure that our teams still have some practice opportunities.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's kind of our timeline. That would take us through May 11th. And then we would play the normal postseason, and we'll start registering on June 1st for our fall program. So as always, we've got a sport playing, a sport registering, and a sport ending.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Miss Yarborough. And those are obvious. Obviously, I like to always put those numbers up there for everyone to see. A lot of interest in recreation. I think you can agree that the program keeps growing, right? All of these teams rely heavily on volunteers to coach. So once again, it looks like a really great, fun season. But with that, if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, Madam Chairman.
Oh, yes, Councilmember Gregory.
How are we doing with pickleball and pickleball courts being developed?
Well, we have a lot of folks in our area that love pickleball. We don't have enough courts, as you know. We've put lines on some existing tennis courts, which has made probably everybody a little mad and nobody very happy. We do have some dedicated pickleball courts in our area too, but Jason and I have been working together along with his folks in Capital Projects on additional pickleball courts, and having some meetings with Councilmember Tinkler and his concerns later this week. So that is still something we're pushing for. We've got money set aside in this year's budget to build some pickleball courts, and so we're looking for the right location.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gregory. Anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, I
If not-
do.
oh,
I do.
okay.
Thank you. Ms. Scarborough, the 909, you got 909 playing soccer at West Ashley Park. Is there a max that we can handle? Are we okay there? I'm just curious. And it's wonderful. I'm gonna tell you, I go out there, a couple times a week and Saturday mornings, and it's unbelievable the job that Stacy Collins and Sarah and all of that group do out there. They do a tremendous job, and Jason's team does a tremendous job of keeping those fields straight. But wow, it looks packed sometimes. So I didn't know if there's a max or where we stood as far as that's concerned.
Well, that's an interesting question. So the way we do youth sports registration is we never have a max. We do it for a time period. You sign up, register from a certain date to a certain date, and then we take all those numbers. We develop the teams. We find volunteer coaches, like Councilmember Parker alluded to, that we're completely dependent on our great volunteers to help coach, and we get going. It means that our seasons are on top of each other. It means sometimes teams are having to go from one practice to another, or we shorten it. We've done some things in the past. I'll give you a great example. In basketball, we only have 4 gymnasiums across the entire city of Charleston. So in order to play a basketball program, we have taken our 5 to 8 year olds and we play them in the fall, and then we play the 9 and up in the winter, so we can get everybody more court time. We may have to start doing some interesting things like that with our soccer, but we've never cut off registration. We've always taken registration through those dates and then just tried to figure out how do we serve it, because it's really a core service of the city of Charleston to offer these traditional youth sports. So we've never limited registration on these.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, just one last question.
Yes,
Laura,
please.
yes, I mean, over the years, you've been one of the departments that's been experiencing cuts, and you've been extremely cooperative in trying to help with the budget. How's your staffing?
We have done pretty well. We still are having problems, Councilmember Gregory, finding part-time staffing. That's not a function of the budget though, because the positions are there, and because of the rate increases that City Council voted on last year, our hourly rates are up. We're just not finding people that want part-time positions anymore. It's explained to me that you can drive Uber Eats or one of those kind of things and get Venmo'd your money the same night. So who wants to work a work schedule where you wait 2 weeks for a paycheck? And I kind of understand that, but that's where we've really had some difficulty, because when we start these games, it's great to have 3 and 4 people out at a complex monitoring for safety and security. So full-time, we're not in a bad place. Part-time, we are still looking for folks to, and we always are, but it's been very difficult to find applicants for those positions.
Can you convert some of the part-time to full-time?
Well, we have done that. We have done that where we can. And so some of the positions that we had part-time traditionally in the department, we have taken 3 part-time to create 1 full-time, which is about what we have to do when you put in benefits. But again, it does cut down on the number of people I have as a whole to supply when we're going to be playing, say, at Stony and at Harmon. I need people one side of the street and working on the other side of the street. So we've done that in some positions where we felt like we had the ability to, but it's not been across the board. How's it affecting your service though? Well, I hope that my customers are very satisfied, but we've got some great people working. We really do. I think our folks do a great job of communicating and working with our community. Do we have some hiccups every now and then. Sure we do, but I think everybody's working really hard. They get tired, but they're all still in the game. And so we're doing the very best we can do with what we have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yarborough. And yes, Councilmember Gregory, I'll have more. I think we'll bring that up again. I think they've started trying to staff lifeguarding positions and things like that. So I'll add that to not only human resources, but the next recreation committee meeting. But if there are no other questions, I'd like to kind of just jump from obviously spring registration to 4B, which is field maintenance, which I think kind of leads us from those high registration numbers and just having places to put all of these folks. So I'm not sure who wants to take that one, Lori or Jason or Miss Yarborough or Mr. Franzberg.
I can probably just dive right in. So those numbers that you see, the usage numbers, translates into this. So we have over 30 locations of baseball and softball. We have 125 acres of irrigated turf that are mowed twice per week in the growing season to keep that turf safe and short. There's 6 staff members that get all of that completed. And basically what that means is right now we're working on about 40 different layouts in order to get all of that, the field prep completed. Also, that is 82 paints for soccer, along with the 30 or so baseball fields. But that's just to get us started, coming out of the winter sports into the spring sports. So we're getting most of that work done. It's a lot of area to cover. And part of the last year's budget cycle, we did get a number of new positions. So to supplement those 6 staff members, we're currently interviewing for a new crew leader and 2 leads groundskeepers that would supplement those field crews. So it's getting better, and we're consistently trying to hire new people. So we have a couple of new positions. We're reorganizing a little bit, taking some of those lower positions, making higher positions, kind of to Councilmember Gregory's point. And it's just we got to get them hired and trained up. So it's getting better, and it's a lot of territory to cover.
Madam Chairman, I have a question, if I may.
Sure, go ahead, Councilmember Gregory.
Jason, as we move forward, are we trying to do any of our parks consistent with the Dutch dialogue to create them for retention? I always thought that Stony Field would have been an ideal place for retention, especially as we try to fight Fishburne and Higgett. But we didn't. But I'm just saying, in the future, we're going to start thinking in terms of our fields as retention for flooding.
Yeah, I mean, any new project, we would certainly take that into consideration, and we'd, resiliency and trying to lessen the runoff from public property is certainly a goal. We don't have any retrofits that are taking that into consideration right now, but certainly anything new in the future, that's part of our criteria for more resilient properties in the city.
Thanks for that answer. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other questions before I jump in? Okay. So Mr. Kranzberg, so before I requested this before, and you had a great spreadsheet of sort of the scheduling timeline of all the fields. Do you have something like that again? Which fields get done? I mean, every field certainly can't get done every week, I think is what you told me before. But certainly, recreation sends you a list, you get everything completed. Do you all feel like we have enough field space for what we have registered and for all the programming needs, or are we, are we in need of anything?
I mean, we're always in need of more rectangular fields, right? Kanehoy Peninsula is a prime example. We have a lot of land bank properties around the city, and as the population grows, we get more and more pressure on our athletic fields. You know, look at Lori's numbers right there. I think I don't have the stat right in front of me, but the growth pre-COVID to post-COVID has been significant and hundreds of percentage points. So yes, there's always a need for more rectangular athletic fields.
Well, I apologize. Let me rephrase that question. I mean, we know we could always use more green space. We want more green space. My concern is the programming, the issues that we've had in the past, that we've seen in the past, is we have these huge registration numbers. I think Councilmember McBride is going to touch on it in a minute. You know, we have these huge recreation numbers. We have a ton of sports teams signed up, and we don't have enough fields. But we do have some fields, but we just aren't able to mow them, drag them, line them weekly for practices and or games, correct? So
the goal is that all of our athletic complexes, all of those get mowed and dragged per the schedule. Sometimes some of the satellite fields might not get fully completed due to maybe rain or somebody called in sick. Our goal is 100%. It's not always achievable based on the the daily needs. When you're talking about 6 staff members that go from Daniel Island to Johns Island, these fields are getting usage every single day. So I know that last year we talked a little bit about the school district and their fields. They don't get used every single day like ours do. So with the advertisement of the new positions right now, we're going to be able to split up into about 3 different crews, assuming that all of those people accept those job offers based on the new staffing that y'all approved last year. So getting better. And I don't have all of the numbers right now. I can certainly bring that up for our next meeting, and we can review the schedules that Rec provides us and what our target rates are at the end of the week.
Okay. All right. I think that would be good. And just trying to get ahead of things, because we know how sort of the spring and the fall wound up, like I said. And Lori, I'm going to just kind of grab you back in for a minute. I'm sure you'll know a little more once those coaches and once those program directors are sending everyone out into those fields. If there is a need, can you come back to us? Do we have a solution this year to help fill that void if there are fields that we need to get maintained and we can't do it because we just don't have the staff or anything? Do we have a plan in case that happens?
Well, Councilmember Parker, I think we'll do okay for the next 3 weeks or so. Once the games start, that's when it really becomes difficult for a coach to find a practice field. So we will have to use neighborhood parks. We'll have to use some outfields of fields for younger groups and smaller groups. Even some of that space that you and I walked around with Jason and Robbie last week at Bayview, and use some of that green space for T-ball. So we'll be finding those spots so that we can still give coaches opportunities. And I'll just have to work really closely with Jason and the schedule we provide them to see where they're not able to meet some of those needs. And then we'll have to figure out, does recreation help, or has Jason got enough new people come in, or how do we make that happen? But the next 3 weeks I feel okay about, because we don't play games. We're just practicing. So we'll be okay for the next 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. Well, I will check back in, and I know, that's just a complaint that I get a lot, especially over here on James Island, is just those off fields are the ones that sometimes, understandably, that we have a hard time maintaining, and they're not used every day, or they're used by, private permits, people that got permits for them. But I just hope that if we need the maintenance and again, chime in for other districts in West Ashley or Johns, if there are areas that we can't get to, that we have sort of a potential solution that we could do in 3 to 4 weeks. Okay.
Absolutely. Jason and I have been talking on the daily about these things. It's been right there in front of both of us. So I know there were conversations ongoing on the holiday weekend about the school district and Johns Island Park. So I know there's a lot of conversations. He's working hard with his staff trying to plan some things out. So we will continue to watch that closely.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it, everybody. Anyone else have any other questions on that item? All right, moving on. Councilmember McBride had some Johns Island parks
Yeah.
and presentation.
Thanks. Yep, thanks. So before I go to the presentation, I'll just kind of jump ahead based on what we just talked about. And I've been talking to Mr. Kronsberg via email the last couple of days about the baseball fields at the Johns Island Park. And I know that you're working with CCSD because they use that baseball field, the high school does. And one thing I request is that, and this goes for really anything, not just parks, but anywhere where the county is doing things, in city districts, is even if, like, I'm the face for the most part of Johns Island. I'm much more involved with the constituents, it seems like, than Joe Boykin is, as far as on a daily basis talking to the community. So even if the county is going to do something like in these baseball fields on Johns Island, Mr. Kronsberg, if you're aware of that and you're aware of like the county's timeline or the CCSD's timeline, for example, to improve the baseball fields, if you can just let me know, then I can let the coaches know and the players know and the constituents know, even if we're not doing it, but if someone else is doing it, that's fine. They don't care. They just want to know someone's doing it. And if I'm communicating that to them, they're happy, and then I'm more in the know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So right now, the school district's been working for a little over a year on going through the design and permitting to upgrade fields 1 and 3 at Johns Island Park, as well as the multi-purpose field, which will be funded by the city, but it would be part of their scope of work. So when they got into that project, and they started realizing that there was some other challenges in the permitting process, they broke that project down into phases. Phase 1 would be the stormwater project to satisfy the requirements of the permits on that project. And then they would come back the following year and do the field work and all of the other lighting, scoreboards, restrooms, and concessions building upfits. So that is to serve St. John's High School, and the fact that they're now trying to have a little bit more of a baseball, softball presence. They've always used those fields.
Right.
But
yeah, and I'm just, as you get that information, like for any of those fields that are in our city parks, but they're using and they're willing to fund and improve, if you can push that to me proactively, so I'm in the know, so then I can tell people proactively, hey, here's the plan, because they honestly don't care if it's coming from me, but it's the CCSD doing it. They don't care. They just want to know when it's going to get fixed and what the timeline is. So that would really help me a lot, and let them know that we as a local government in general are helping them out. Because a lot of the frustration on John's is just lack of knowing what's going on, including roads and everything else. County has all these plans, but they don't advertise it well. So the constituents are very frustrated. They just don't know what's going on. So
that we did let the school district know that they needed to provide some outreach, which they did to the surrounding neighborhoods. But and I did request a project update from them today, knowing that this is happening, but I haven't gotten anything back yet.
Okay. All right, so I'll share a very simple, short presentation here. Hold on a second. So this is not news to anybody here, I don't think, but I'm new to this game, and it's as I'm just looking at things, I realize there's a lot of discrepancies with things on John's Island, and the picture tells 1,000 words, if not 1,000,000 words. So, John's Island has obviously been a rapidly growing area. That's why there's a new district here and everything. That's why I'm here. But one of the two issues that I face during the campaign and hear all the time are traffic, development, and recreation facilities. If we can tackle those three things, this island will be 10 times happier than it is now. And they're all very challenging things, I get. But this is a great example of when people see this, and this contributes, by the way, to the traffic, because a lot of parents bring their kids to other schools because there's not enough recreation facilities on Johns Island. So they bring them to James Island. So that contributes a lot to the traffic, as well as that schools are overcrowded, and that's a CCSD thing. But a lot of these things kind of tie together. And obviously there's that map there too. So when people see that, it's just, picture says 1,000 words. So obviously, I'm going to be banging the drum and advocating for some more prioritization and funding and on the budget for adding some recreation facilities. I know that the referendum passed this past November for the aquatic center, and we'll do all that planning and everything down the road. I'm even open to, I talked to obviously the county about it, but since we're talking about typically green space, we're talking about parks that are adding parks in Johns Island. If we have to go outside the urban growth boundary for that, I think that'd be acceptable to most people, because it's not adding houses, it's adding green space and parks. But I just wanted to point out what's obvious to this board, but was kind of a surprise to me when I first saw it a couple months ago.
So
Okay.
there's a couple that aren't on there. We have the Griffith tract that we purchased in the past 2 years. We have the Johns Island Park expansion tract, and there's also the park at Hot Gap, as well as the county park over at Mullet Hall that the Parks and Rec master plan took into consideration when we were looking at parks by area, looking at all of the other jurisdictional provisions out there. But
Yeah.
yes, the city on Johns Island has grown significantly in the past 10 years, and it's all of that is addressed in the Parks and Rec master plan.
Okay.
And Jason, the Griffin tract, I think you said, because I do believe the city did purchase land on Johns Island, correct? So they already have the land, correct?
That's right. So
Okay.
the past 2 or 3 years, we've expanded Johns Island Park's footprint, and we've added the Griffith tract property as well. So there's a couple other properties out there that are in the queue, no project yet, but
Is some of that land that the city purchased, is that for the future aquatic center that was voted on this past November?
Yeah, so the 12-acre expansion of Johns Island Park would be a rec center with either an outdoor or indoor pool, gymnasium, just traditional rec center type uses, not unlike the Daniel Allen Rec Center as the most recent one we've constructed.
Okay.
Okay. Councilmember, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, one, obviously, I've been to every park multiple times. But one thing I might suggest, I know it's nothing that the city could take action. I mean, obviously we can't take action on it today, but a potential collaboration, as I've learned from Councilmember Waring, Mullet Hall, I mean, could really use a playground. I mean, has the county been open to talking about that? I mean, whether it's a partnership or, the county taking a lead on it. I know because you are certainly lacking playgrounds over there as well.
Yeah, we have 0 that I'm aware of. I don't know much. I don't know about Mullet Hall. I have to look into that. Is that the county park you're talking about?
Yes. Maybe that's just something to take up and bring it back to us if it's maybe a collaborative effort or something that they can do. But
I'll reach out to Joe Boykin today and see if I'll start that conversation today.
We also added a whole new playground structure at Johns Island Park in the past 2 years. So we've been picking away at it.
Okay. So sticking with the baseball fields, I'm going to invite the mayor to Johns Island High School opening day, and I'll send it out here shortly. Because there's so few parks and so few recreational things on Johns Island, some of you may know that baseball is a huge deal out here, even though there's limited fields and the quality of the fields needs to be improved. And what I just discovered recently, meeting with a couple of the coaches, that the Johns Island travel team, Little League travel team, is #1 in the country in USSA baseball power rankings. They boast 300 families as part of that Little League. And last year they were the state of South Carolina. They won the state of South Carolina title. And that successful program has fed into the high school. Obviously, when the kids get a little older, and the high school 2 years ago won their first ever playoff game. And then last year won the region and won 2 playoff games. I just point that out to brag a little bit about them, but also to show like there's a lot of momentum, a lot of positive momentum there, and that's, you know, they're using those fields a lot to, you know, obviously to practice and be successful, and it brings a lot of attention to those kids. And I went out to the fields, and they're just, again, like I know it's hard to maintain all these fields when we're short staffed, but there's a lot of issues that the coaches pointed out, the safety needs. I know Mr. Kronsberg and I have been talking about this, and CCSD is going to help out, but a lot of, like, they're concerned about, no kidding, safety, not just how the fields are looking, but the actual safety for the kids. And there's like one little set of bleachers on each side of the fence, you know, for a pretty popular team. So there's a lot of improvements we could do. It just kind of looks, from my perspective, it looks, for such a successful team, you go out there to watch a game and there's little tiny bleachers and low quality, you know, conditions. So I'm, you know, really hoping that we can improve that, you know, with CCSD. And again, please just keep me informed proactively what CCSD is planning on doing, so I can tell the coaches first, you know, if I need to, or just have the overall plan would help a lot. And so I'll stop with the baseball fields. Any comments on that before I go to pickleball really quick?
No, go ahead.
Okay. And then for pickleball, I just wanted to bring up that specific issue, Mr. Kronsberg, with the Daniel Nagurski guy, that I know you guys have been working on this for quite a while. It's some tennis courts that were converted to pickleball courts out by the park, Allen Fleming tennis courts. And this isn't just kind of some random complaint. I've been out there. I see exactly why he's frustrated. The sound is very, very loud. And he owns like 3 businesses downtown. He's a hardworking guy, you know, taxpayer, contributing to the community, and doesn't get a lot of sleep, because when he's home, especially on the weekends too, it's just constant bang, bang, bang pickleball sound. So the last I heard, I think again, CCSD or somebody was gonna try to fund getting a sound barrier there for that pickleball court. Is that correct?
That's right. As part of their project, they would, part of the stormwater work that really going to exacerbate that situation, and that there's a ditch that separates his house from the courts. And as part of the requirements, they have to regrade the entire ditch and cut out all the vegetation there. So when they showed us their plans, we said that, you know, you need to help us figure out a way to remediate this noise issue. So as part of their project, they have a sound barrier they're going to be putting up. It requires the replacement of all the tennis court or pickleball court fencing. We've changed the start time till 9 a.m. So, you know, that's on the pickleballers to respect the rules signs out there. So that sign has been posted. And that was something that he and I have been working on for quite some time now. And so that's.
What about how late in the evening does it go? Is it allowed to go?
Closing time I think those lights go, I can't remember if they go off at 9 or 10. Lori, do you remember the time setting on those?
Yeah, Jason, the timer on that goes off at 9 p.m. If nobody's playing, then of course they're not on. But if someone is using the lights, they go off at 9 p.m.
Is there, and I'm new at this whole thing. You guys have dealt with the pickleball fanatics, so I'm not sure. But if we were to stop that at 7 p.m. until we get a sound barrier, I know that would irritate a lot of pickleballers, but it would at least allow this guy to get some sleep when he gets home. Is that a possibility?
You'll get a lot of emails from the pickleball people, I can promise you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the Johns Island constituents that play that.
Use it. Yeah.
So it's been we've been stuck right in the middle of quality of life and providing recreational services. And so the 9 a.m. posting hopefully will help, and certainly defer to the group on other ideas as far as an earlier shut off time.
So right now it's 9 p.m. you said, or 10 p.m.?
Hey, guys, apologies. I've got to go meet the College of Charleston at 5 o'clock, so I got to drop out.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We'll I mean, per Lori, we'll verify that, but there's a timer that automatically shuts them off. And I think it was at 9 o'clock, but we can
It's definitely at 9 p.m., Jason, because the proximity with those homes, we went ahead and set it at that, and have never wavered on that one.
Councilmember McBride, do you mind if I jump in for a sec?
Sure.
Could you maybe bring it back to us, maybe discuss with your constituents and the pickleball community and the residents of that community? And, if you need to decide on some hours and then maybe bring it back to this committee, or if you need I don't think you need a vote, Councilmember Shealy, Councilmember Gregory, if you want to confirm with me on that. But if maybe you come up with the hours and then discuss it with Mr. Kronsberg and Miss Yarborough and get some new hours posted once you find the right comfortable area.
Are the hours done by ordinance for parks?
Typically, yeah. Well, by ordinance, it's dusk to dawn, unless
Right.
we have scheduled activities or programs. And where we do have lights, like at our tennis courts, they do have timers that shut them down at 9 p.m. That's at Forest Park. That's at Jack Adams, Councilmember Gregory, in your area. So even if somebody wanted to play tennis till midnight, they couldn't. Same thing with our outdoor basketball courts. But we have been trying to be very good neighbors to residents who are adjacent to parks that have lights.
Okay, so thank you, Councilmember Gregory. So it is by ordinance, Councilmember McBride. So maybe if you poll everyone, I'm just thinking a path forward, and come back, and if there's something that we need to look at, per the ordinance, we can, because like Councilmember Gregory said, it sounds like it's dusk till dawn right now, and those hours are posted already, correct?
Yeah, so we just posted a new sign that pickleball plays not permitted until 9 a.m. So that was one that I've been working on with the adjacent property owner.
Okay.
And in this case, it's just until we get the noise abatement kind of shield that the CCSD was going to put up. So it's kind of like a temporary measure. If an ordinance is needed, that's, I don't want to change the ordinance overall. I just want to help this guy out just temporarily until the sound barrier is put up.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Councilmember McBride, this is Lori. I've got a list of the pickleball folks in that community, at least some of the leadership of that pickleball group, that I could share with you if you wanted to reach out and talk to them as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. I might arrange them to meet with this poor guy that's not getting any sleep. And we'll meet together, and we can at least maybe work something out together that we can agree on.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else, Councilmember McBride, on your item?
That's it.
All
It's
right.
enough John's Island wanking. No.
That's okay. That's okay. Moving on, I think next item was miscellaneous. Is there? I apologize. Go ahead, Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. I just want to find Mr. Kronsberg, in the bond referendum. I know we made acquisition on some property on Johns Island. What money's in the bond referendum to begin, I guess, moving some dirt and going vertical with some improvements?
Well, in that question that went to the voters was identified a recreation center on Johns Island. To get there is a significant process that we just we haven't endeavored on yet, and just determine how to move forward.
I'll jump in there too, Mr. Kronsberg, if you want. So Councilmember Waring, my hope is through this committee, that's our goal. That's our job this year. As we know that referendum isn't going to generate any money. I think Ms. Wharton, till 25 or so. So it's going to be, in my mind, the job of this committee to determine where we start, right? what monies, what dollars get allotted to each area and how we prioritize those, right? So in the coming months, I hope that this committee will take that task on with me.
Okay. I look forward to
And
that.
if I could just jump in one more time. So the way that
Sure.
that was worded, that referendum, for whatever reason, it said specifically an aquatic center for Johns Island. And since I've been asking questions about it, been hearing, well, it's just going to be some kind of recreation center. And I don't know what went into the thought process on how it was worded, but I just want to make everyone aware that when the voters voted on it, at least on Johns Island, they voted for, I think it won overwhelmingly, if I'm not mistaken. It was overwhelming, that they, in their mind, they read aquatic center. So I'm assuming that that's going to be some aspect of what we're going to actually end up with, is, I think Mr. Kronsberg said, a pool or something, in addition to other things too. If we can add other things to it, that'd be phenomenal. If we can add more green space around it or whatever, that'd be wonderful.
Mr. Kronsberg, when they planned the rec center on Daniel Island, how involved was the community on that? Were they involved? Were they not involved? I mean,
Oh, no, they were significantly involved. So we had multiple community meetings and design sessions, and that plan came to fruition out of that citizen-led coordination, city-led with the citizens on programming, design, features, things like that. Of course, we're always hemmed in by
it's a
property.
great facility over there. So I'm just wondering if maybe Mr. McBride and his folk on Johns Island can piggyback over a similar process. The last question is on the Griffin track. Give us a little overview on that property. Didn't have some, I don't know whether he did some digging out there and got a lake or something, a pond or something out there.
Yeah, so it was an interesting acquisition. It's about 20 acres of ponds and about 3 or 4 acres of highland. As part of the acquisition, there's a life estate. So the individual we purchased the property from gets to stay living in his house until he no longer exists as the life estate goes. So he lives there, and we know that the hospital's coming in next door, and I would anticipate, and have not been in any discussions with the hospital, that there would be some sort of, hopefully, a joint partnership with their project and the future park there, because we will certainly amenitize their campus, and we would like their campus to amenitize that future park space.
Of course. Okay. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions, or moving on to any other miscellaneous business?
Councilmember Parker, I'm sorry, it's Lori. If I could
Please.
add, it might be helpful, given some new faces on our commission, that we bring the referendum wording back to our next meeting so everybody could see exactly what, because as Councilmember McBride alluded to, it was a very, it's like an 80% supporting of our parks and recreation. And there's some specific items that were listed on there. So I just want to make sure that we kind of look at those together and everybody sees that same list.
Yep, absolutely. I hope that this, as I said earlier, I hope that this committee will be up to the task of coordinating that and prioritizing that, and we will absolutely bring everything back to the table.
Right. I do have
Councilmember Ware?
I do have a miscellaneous item, but to follow up on Ms. Yarborough first, I knew I was passed overwhelmingly, but I saw an article in this weekend's paper, maybe it was yesterday's paper, I don't know. I didn't realize that the referendum over Mount Pleasant passed out of 41,000 votes, it passed by 700 votes. I was shocked. Parks usually.
Yeah, they have a huge interest in their parks and recreation, but it was a very, very close vote. I don't believe that their mayor and all of their council members came out in support of that referendum. Unlike the city, where everyone seemed to be fully supportive of what we needed to do. So it was very close over here.
I agree. Now, to my miscellaneous point, and I'll need you, Ms. Yarborough, to chime in. A lady named Ms. Freddie Lee, Ms. Yarborough knows, and I'm sure Mr. Kronberg does. She's been the city employee over at the recreation building over at W.L. Stevens for I think 48 years. She may be coming up on 49 years. Rumor has it that she's gonna finally retire, by the way. I hadn't heard that from her, but a couple of community presidents over there have told me that. And what I'd like to do is at least put on the agenda, maybe for the next meeting, to name that community building after her and have a plaque erected in her name. She's like an institution over there. I mean, I can't tell you how many generations, I guess at least two, headed towards 2.5 generation of children that she touched coming through that park. And W.L. Stevens Park is a big park. And then kids would come to the park, she would see that they do their homework, and then they would go out and she was a heck of a coach from everybody. I never saw her teams, but her teams competed on state level. So I think a person like that should be recognized. You remember Ms. Yarborough, we had a little birthday party or something, surprise birthday party for her last year over there, but she's finally gonna call her career with the city close. And that's after having been an RN for Ropus and Francis for 30 plus years of Ropus Health.
Yes. Miss Freddie Lee
Wow.
is indeed an institution. She and if you probably remember the name Tyrone Cunningham, he helped coach the boys sports and she coached the girls sports, but she's been over there for nearly 50 years and she has gone ahead and put in her paperwork for retirement. And we did recognize her right before Christmas when the neighborhood met and had a little drop in for her. She didn't want a lot, but I can certainly start the paperwork to name that playground building in her honor. I think she would be very touched by that. And we also got the announcement today, I'm sorry, that Oscar Fordham, who is now retired 3 times from the city, but come back, he is officially retiring for the 3rd and last time again. So he's been with the city almost 50 years as well.
Wow.
So we've got a lot of very special playground leaders that have handled and worked with kids over the last 40 or 50 years and just been a wonderful positive influence on all these families and these children growing up. And so we're losing some of those folks. I'm glad that they get to enjoy their retirement, but we're going to lose their experience and miss having them. But I can certainly start that process.
That'd be great. I actually sat down with Ms. Lee last year sometime and took some notes on her background that we can certainly put into a resolution or something for her. Very interesting life. As I say, she was an RN, but her husband was a career man in the military, and she went to nursing school in Japan, Frankfurt, Germany. And I think it's one other place overseas before she came back to Fort Pemberton in New Jersey with her husband and completed her nursing RN degree there. And I asked her what nursing schools were the best. I mean, the U.S. compared to overseas, and hands down, quick, she said overseas was much better than the schools here. But anyway, I think so. I'll get this vetted out so we can get a resolution done for her. And if you'd be kind enough to start that naming piece, and certainly
Yeah,
bring the mayor in the loop on that. I think that would be wonderful recognition.
absolutely. And I'll be sure, Councilmember Waring, to put that I gave myself a reminder just to put that on next month's meeting agenda as well. But I would encourage you. I mean, I would love, I mean, we just have phenomenal staff, and especially this recreation department. I mean, touching these children's lives, we know that just, it impacts them throughout their lives. So I would love you to bring her to city council as well. I mean, I know you're going to put something together for her. I hope she's not watching. She doesn't see this, but
I don't think so.
and hopefully that's something that you and Miss Yarborough and the mayor can work on as far as naming goes. But I'll be certain that if it's a vote or anything that needs to come back to committee, we'll have it on the next meeting.
Thank you.
But please bring her into city council. What a wonderful woman, and that long with the city. Impressive.
Right. Thank you so much.
All right. Anyone else have anything else to come before this committee? Oh, all right. Well, I will move to adjourn. Thanks everyone for hanging with us and letting me be mobile. I am at the recreation center probably for the next 10 years of my life. So, all right, I'll move to adjourn. Bye, everyone.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, thanks.
Good meeting.